G'day and welcome to another Campfire Project panel discussion. And today, first of all, over in London, I've got Kenny Mammarella-D'Cruz. How are you, Kenny?
Doing well, thank you.
Fantastic. And it's early morning over there and you've got the sunshine by the look of it through the window.
It's a rare occasion. I'm so loving the sunshine. It's brilliant, but it is rare. And summer's only just started. It's since like July.
You know, we're right now winter here, so it's, just warm ourselves up, get the hands on the fire, and away we go. And then we've also got John Hope down there in the Central Coast. How are you, John?
I'm really good. No, I haven't got the fire, but I know I can do this like Scott, and I'll keep warm. Go for a run.
It's great, fantastic. Then we've got Scott Carson down there in Melbourne, so you're probably in the coldest area of all of us, Scott.
I am, Alan. I've got the heater firing up. I haven't got the campfire to keep me warm, but I'll work on that. We'll see how we go.
Just put it underneath that computer behind you and you'll be right. Now,
the sun doesn't walk in and actually like that one.
Now, if anyone was wondering before what John was talking about with Scott with his running, Scott, as we've spoken in some of the previous campfires, and that he runs a men's running group down there in Melbourne. It's probably the only way to stay warm down in that place is to keep moving.
We actually start the mornings off with it's a hillbilly tonic. It's apple cider vinegar with chili in it. And,
what?
It's fantastic. It's good for you. It's good for your gut health, but also it opens up the capillaries in the chest. Some of the boys who do the walk at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning in shorts and T-shirt, and we're talking 3-4 degrees, quick shot of hillbilly tonic and away they go.
Hillbilly tonic.
Well, I understand the contents of it. I can understand why you're running.
There's generally a stop by a couple of victims along the way.
Yeah. Is that to make everyone go in front?
No, actually, I do a little bit of long distance running, and instead of having gels and stuff like that, we're sort of enjoying chili instead, because it actually opens up the sort of capillaries in the blood vessels, and instead of having all that sugar, it's just a bit better for us. So I'm just having a play with that. All the research coming out says about that. Not that I research it, but as long as I'm told that.
Excellent.
Minute.
Well, one of the things that we're finding with the beginning of this Campfire Project, all the secrets are coming out. And what we wanted to talk about today was, how secrets, the secrets we keep, how they make us sick. And also how to name them and how to let them go. How do we move on from that situation? Now, Kenny, you were good enough to come up with the subject for this Campfire Project discussion. So would you like to kick us off and start us in the right direction with this?
I'm scared to. Because the whole thing is, sadly, the way I was brought up was secrets and lies, especially family secrets and lies, and second guessing. Second guessing is like, if I say this, then that'll happen. That one will be angry. There'll be trouble in that one. I'll betray. And it's just a minefield. And sadly, what happened as my cousins and I got older is we just withdrew from each other, because the secrets of our parents and aunts and uncles confused us too much. And it was too much to know what to say, what not to say, what the story is, what's truth. And I remember even waking up as a child sometimes thinking, oh my God, what lies have come out about me and how do I put it right? And it was all about, I guess, maintaining my status or something, which is shocking. That's just like, that's not the way to bring up kids or have a life. There's no space for anyone to exist or take part. It's all paranoia, basically. So one of the most important things that I realized in the men's groups, especially after some men showed up and used it almost as a confessional, they just needed everything out for some reason, was as soon as something's out, it's like it's named and there's no blame and there's no shame, and just naming it kind of gets it out into the world rather than being held and going crazy in the mind. And it's like free of it instead of carrying that. And in life, I guess, being restricted by that thing, it's out. in the men's groups, one of the check and round questions is the last time I cried. And the last men's group, when we came to that question, what I said was it was at the bus stop earlier on that morning. But don't worry, I hid it really well. And I was speaking to my mother on the phone. And I said, how are you? And she said, sad. So immediately, being an ex-mummy's boy, there was a, what's wrong? How do I fix it? I guess behind that came, did I do something wrong? Am I in trouble? Which is the old reflex that came from the old days. Yeah. And then she told me that the reason that she was sad is because there's an article that came out recently about me in Soul Hub magazine and the Book of Men. And it was called My Dirty Little Secrets. And there was a story there, a very short story that just referred to my first day in secondary school and how I was attacked in the changing rooms, physically racial attack. And I'd never been in a fight. And I knew we were ex-refugees, the only non-white people in the community. And for my mother, it was the shock that I went through that as a child, and she never found out. She never found out anything about that. And I guess her worry is what else happened and what else did I have to go through alone? So it was a shame and a guilt that she found out, because another reason for secrets, I would say, is to protect people, not just ourselves, but to protect people from feeling guilty or responsible, or, which is more second guessing. So that's where the idea came from. And it's a minefield as far as I'm concerned, like not just that secrets make us sick, but why tell the secrets? Where does the behavior come from? What good does it do? What bad does it?
That's it. And this is one of the biggest issues. You know, how many think about the secrets that we've kept ourselves and how we've hidden those and what that's actually done to us? That's always things. I had an interview with somebody else just earlier on, and his second relationship was falling apart. They finally broke up, but it was only after the separation that he found out, because he was in a blended family, that his stepson had been abusing his daughter since she was 6 years old. And so the guilt then that he had about that, but the fact that the daughter had kept that to herself all that time as well.
Yeah.
And the impact that that has. So why is it that we keep these secrets? I think that's something that we probably need to look at, is for what reason do we hold those things down? Because they're obviously not doing us any good when we do it.
Oh, I think that's an easy answer. It's fear.
Mm.
You know, you're scared of something, and that's where you get in your head. And when you're in your head, you got your conscious and your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind doesn't like you lying, because you got your ethics and your morals that like to keep you on the straight and narrow. But then your conscious mind, you know, and subconscious mind have a bit of a battle, and then the truth comes out. Also, and like Kenny was saying, it's guilt. That's and guilt comes from fear, and fear's in your head. You need to get out of your head and into your heart, which I've said before. But I know that in the police we had everyone used to hold dirt on everyone. You know what I mean? Like hold secrets, and that's a profession where you can come unstuck. But as long as you don't come unstuck in conflict with your ethics and morals, you're okay. But what they do is they hold the secrets and they try to use them as payback complaints. And society does do that a little bit. There's legislation now. If you've got dirt on someone in the police and you have something happen to you, and then you turn around and say, well, no, I'm going to say this about them, they won't take the payback complaint because you didn't have the ethics and morals to bring it to the surface at the time. You know, and it works better because then you haven't got that like warring factions going from one side to the other. And so, and that's it. Like when people have got you got a secret, or someone's got a secret on you, your fear is that they're going to use it against you. So it's like a power play. And I say with my boys, I've said, I don't care what you do. If you lie to me, I'll come down on you like a ton of bricks, because if you lie to me, I can't help you.
That's it. And Scott, you were going to say something before?
Yeah, I was just considering. It's a good subject, because I'm just literally sitting there thinking about a situation with my son and my wife, how my wife had an accident a few years ago now, and she's going to be careful because she's going to watch this. And I love her. And it's not keeping a secret, but her tolerance to dealing with some things isn't that great. So my son will often come to me and whisper in my ear. And that's like telling a secret, and he's saying it out of fear because he doesn't want his mum to react to that. And it just puts a negative vibe straight into the room. You know, and it's only a simple one, but it's one that just changes the dynamics of a conversation immediately, and something we're trying to pull up on. Because for him to speak openly, he will overcome his fear, but also there's no hiding of anything. Because I think it's actually worse to sit there and not have that conversation than to sort of, you know, join those whispers through the ear, because then they just get misconstrued anyway. So yeah, so I just had that mental picture. So keeping secrets can be as simple as that, and it changes the room dynamics. When you whisper into somebody's ear, you get that feeling of guilt, feeling the fear of the conversation.
Kenny,
I wonder whether I've heard it so many times amongst blokes. Why even tell her? And it could be someone's mother, girlfriend, whatever. Why even tell her? Because she'll get the wrong idea and she won't understand it from our perspective. So does that mean that everything should come out all the time? What if someone just doesn't get it? Or if someone's touchy about something and they make it about themselves rather than the thing in hand? So it's a strange one. And I really believe that there is so-called female staff and there is so-called male staff. And the only difference is a difference in perspective, a difference in understanding, a difference in hormones, a difference in, I don't know, maybe social interactions. But there are different ways that the masculine and the feminine can interact. And sometimes it can be quite messy when they come together, because rules from one may be broken in another, where in another it means nothing. This is going to be quite a dodgy conversation, I think. A very strange one that's come up very often, I find, is when men have, say, intimate or sexual interactions with another woman, and the partner, I'm not saying this is right, I'm just using it as an example that has come up a few times. The female partner will go ballistic and feel betrayed if she even finds out that there was a snog, leave alone anything else. Meanwhile, the bloke would say, God, I didn't even remember that. I've had more intimate conversations. So it's like, for maybe the female, and the female aspect could be the man or the woman, the female aspect in the relationship might think anything and everything is betrayal and he doesn't love me. Where with the male, it was there, I don't even remember, it was, you know, not much of an, you know, whatever, it doesn't figure. So it's the weight and the value that's put on the same thing from different positions. I'm not to say what's right or wrong. I think every individual circumstance is different, but the number of times it's come up, he won't understand, I'm not going to tell him, he'll jump to a conclusion, he might get violent, or he won't understand, she'll leave me, or she'll get really sad, and there's nothing there to get sad about, it's what it means to her rather than what it means to me. And so it goes on. What do you make of that kind of secret?
Well, when it comes down to, I think, what was the reason for keeping the secret or telling the secret? Was it to unburden oneself, not thinking about the person you're passing that on to? It comes into morals and everything else, but it's one that is very difficult to approach from a moral aspect, because, as I say, every situation is different. Each individual is different as well. And I think if you've got a secret, you've got to ask yourself why you're hiding it, you're keeping it to yourself. And if you're going to disclose it, what's the purpose in disclosing it? Is it just to unburden yourself and feel better about yourself and not think about anybody else who's going to be going to be affected by it. Because yes, if you do hang on to stuff, it can eat you away. It can affect all your thinking or your, especially just moving around. And in that, yes, it's going to affect your health because you're concentrating on it so much. But then to let that secret out to just make you feel better and it affects somebody else and brings them down, then I don't think that that's very right either.
That's selfish.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And on the situational awareness, I don't think gender or age issues come into it. Like, I don't want to tell my son that at the age of 5 that Santa Claus isn't real and wreck all that for him. You know, and that in effect is a lie. But I'm aware that he needs that belief. He needs that thing to look forward to because that keeps him up in his heart with all the positive emotions instead of the negative emotions. You know, that your head brings with fear and stuff like that. And where you're saying what's right and what's wrong, you're talking about a fear of being judged, and that's a negative trait too. So the actual fear of being judged, I think, is the one thing that has to be eliminated in that situation.
And by the way, you tell me that Father Christmas doesn't exist.
Well, I was hoping you were going to grow your beard.
If anybody's seen my beard, it's pure white. Actually, it's more like Papa Smurf than Santa Claus. I'm closer to that height than the big fella.
I guess there are two sides to this. This is like unburdening on one side, and on the other side, it may be kind of like being sensitive to consequences. And where do the two meet? It's like you said earlier, John. It's about fear. And am I going to come from love, or am I going to come from fear? It would be very simplistic to say, I will come from love and I will tell the truth. But sometimes it might not be the best because of the consequences or the ramifications. So then is it a better thing to so-called lie? Is avoidance and not going there lying? And the person that's holding on to the secret, is it because I fear abandonment or humiliation? Or is it that I'm actually kind of getting physically ill or mentally going bonkers, trying to kind of like wrestle with this and being preoccupied by trying to suppress it? Or emotionally it's limiting me? Or it could be, I mean, the number of people that I have heard of the situation where the lodger or the uncle was abusing someone and that child couldn't say anything or felt he or she couldn't say anything because otherwise what would happen to the family income? So it's like colluding for the good of the family at a very, very young age. And very often the people that I've spoken to where that's happened, it starts a cycle. It starts a cycle with relationships, with guilt, with intimacy issues, with sexuality as currency, with so many different things. So it's like, it can be a very fine line and it doesn't seem as simple. Maybe it's a matter of timing. I don't know.
I think it's more guilt. The one word you're saying a lot of is guilt. Anyone that grooms people with sexual stuff, I've said in the campfire before, my personal beliefs are they should be shot in the head because you can't do that once and get away with it. I'm sorry, that's the same as pulling the trigger on someone because you destroy them intimately and mentally for the rest of their life. You know, so if you're going to do that to someone, you're taking their life. Yours should be taken. And also with the grooming and that people do, like child molesters and all that, which we're talking about, like the uncle and that, they're all based around guilt. Doing exactly what you say, putting the guilt on that child, not to keep the secret. And then that person walks around, not only are they emotionally wrecked and mentally wrecked, they're then wrecked for all the other, this time it wasn't Dawn, they're wrecked for all the other things in their life. So it comes down to, like, guilt's a tool people can use, and it's up to you whether you take it on board. You know, you've got to, and that's where your ethics and morals come in. And I suppose, yeah, like if you're talking about a sexual thing where people are forced to keep a secret, then yeah, I think that needs to come out every time, you know, and straight away. But we live in a society where there's no consequences for those actions. Most people don't realise in Australia, 90% of sexual like rapes or child molestation things get off in local court. Of the 10% that go to district court, 90% of those get off because it's so hard to prove, and all the guilt, it just wrecks things, and it wrecks the logistics of the stuff in the court. It just has such a big effect. So I think the main issue there is the guilt of the secret and understanding where the guilt's coming from. If you're self-creating guilt, you know, you can do that to the extreme, and that means you just don't have the coping mechanism to overcome it. So you've got to work around it. And if you can't do it, you need to speak to someone who can help you. I know the truth that sometimes it's you don't tell all of the truth to hurt someone. I think you do have to be mindful. You have situational awareness, like Alan said before. You got to be aware of the situation. And if you said kept a small thing out of something to keep someone from being hurt that doesn't cause any damage to anyone, then, you know, I think that's where the old story, that's the old term, white lie. But if you're in a situation where the shit's hit the fan and you've got to get, like, as I've said with my kids, if you don't be completely honest with me, I can't help you. Because the minute I take your battle on board, if I haven't got all the facts, I'm going to look like I was going to say a dick, but can I say that?
You just have, mate.
Does that make sense? Like, I think guilt's something that other people try to use as a tool, but we can also take on board ourselves. You need to get. I don't think the secret's the issue. I think the guilt's the issue.
I think also the reason for the secret, or how the secret came about, if it's in the case of someone forcing themselves onto a child and telling that child they've got to keep that secret and everything else, and that's going to ruin that child's life. Those are the secrets need to come out straight away. If you've done something that you go, right, I'm just going to unburden myself so I feel better, and that's detrimental to other people around you, or doesn't take their emotions or well-being into state, then that's a sort of secret. Well, that's yours and you should keep it.
And the opposite of guilt is forgiveness. So you might have to find that you either need forgiveness from someone else or you need to forgive yourself. And when we're running around with guilt, most of the time, it's us needing to forgive ourselves.
That's right. And
I think it comes down to values.
Exactly. They're the rules. That's the field. That's the playing field. That's the sideline, the goal line, the centre line. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and I think that, like, because I'm just taking a few notes as we're sort of talking, and like the innocence of Christmas, you know, it's a lie to the kids, but it's an innocent lie.
Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy.
Based upon love. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I love the excitement and the energy and the, do you know what I mean? Like, I'll always celebrate Christmas. Santa always exists. No matter, I still do.
Same in my house, no matter how old you are.
Well, John's been here. He's just ruined just about every one of my beliefs that I've had. He's get the Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny. Mate, this is probably the last time I'm having you on here.
Hey, I still believe in Youre.
That's just because I look like him.
Yeah.
Scott.
That's all good. All good. So, like, secrets and talking about secrets and holding them in, like, the damage it does. Like, so most pedophiles, and sexual offenders have had that experience themselves. So you've got to knock it on their head, like, and it's got to be talked about. Like, you can't. It's a really tough one, because in and around my circle, and in particular, young bloke who works for me, I just want to be a little bit careful. I think he'll be okay with it. And this is just talking about it openly. So he was sexually abused by his father, heavily, and he went down a very dark path for a long time. That secret inside him killed him. And it wasn't until he was able to release that and forgiveness, but actually take ownership of the situation. And it's just brought to mind another friend of mine who's just beautiful. And we were growing up together, and all three girls were. it ate her for years. And there's a significant difference between the two sisters. One dealt with it, took ownership of it, and the other one hasn't. The one that has dealt with it is now, I don't know how to say this correctly, so I'm just going to say it and then cop flack. So she's very much a part of the community and wants to be a part of things and is very comfortable in around people, whereas the other one's not. The damage of keeping secrets is just, it's huge, but you know, where's that little white lie draw the line? You know, everything comes back to values.
I think also the like what you're talking about with the one that's not dealt with it, that's PTSD. That's post-traumatic stress. They can't deal with it. So they need to get some coping mechanisms on that. And you try and get that. You go to a psychologist today, all they want to do is label you, shelve you, or medicate you. You know, they don't want you. They don't want you well, and they don't want you dead. They make money out of in between because they're all backed by corporations who are all about making money. So
highly recommend you read. Sorry, I'm jumping over the top quickly. I highly recommend you read Lost Connections by Johann Hari.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Oh, phenomenal.
Absolutely brilliant.
Isn't it? Like I'm
Excellent guy.
Yeah. So one of the things, like I ran a workshop on Sunday, and I called it Building Resilience in Challenging Times. Alan, thank you for popping it up. We worked through cookies and what it is, and I'll bring it on one day. We talk about cookies in a jar, and that's your life stories and all the things that you've been through. And it just so happened on Sunday we had a gentleman who attempted to commit suicide 2 months ago. We had another guy that's dealing with his father who committed suicide, a lady who'd been beaten severely by her husband, and just whoever came, and we just dealt with it. Now, I spoke to the lady today whose husband beat her up quite severely. He's in jail at the moment, and after doing it to another 4 women. That was the first time she'd sat down and broken down the process of what actually happened, what emotions she's had, how she feels, what she's learnt from the situation. And then we try to find some gratitude inside of that, which is a tough thing to do when you've got some pretty serious situations. But we found some little things. Today, I went and had a quick chat with her. Because she's owned the situations, all part of it, she now wants to go to court to face him. She would never have done that if she didn't own that situation. That secret and that shame inside her has just owned her for 20 years.
That's impact. Kenny?
I guess maybe on the other side of secrets make us sick is the truth can set us free.
And there's a fear of actually stepping out and coming out with the truth. As you were saying, John, it's the guilt and things like that, but we need to be able to do that.
But you can come out with the truth and set it free. You don't necessarily have to do that with the person that it's going to have a negative effect on. You can still do that around them. You know, like we as a society, we do protect each other in those sort of circumstances, but it just comes back to communicating and getting it off, because as we started with the conversation, you walk around with it all built up. You know, sooner or later the pressure valve's going to release and it's going to cause damage. Because, the perceived shame and guilt and all those things that keep you in your head and that perpetuates, and you just keep thinking it and thinking it. You just need that. But you've got to have the resilience to do it. And we don't have, but there's some little places, you know, that deal with it. You know, it sounds like, Scott, you were doing it the other day, and, you know, I know Michael does it. I can never say his last name. Lauria. I'll call him Michael Excalibur. He, you know, that sort of stuff. It's because society, like, medication's a business. Mental health, physical health is a business. So, like, they don't want to actually make you well. They want to keep you in the money making zone. So, like with domestics and all that sort of stuff, you've also got. I had 20 years policing, dealing with that on a daily basis, and I was always frontline. I corridor creeping, cake eating piece of cake. And you're dealing with this on a daily basis, and there's always repeat offenders who do it. And yeah, like you said, people get used to it. There's the shame, there's all that sort of stuff. But there's not really any support network out there. You know, like I was at Burke, and they have a compound where if they have a violent situation, domestic, the ladies can go into the compound. It's all razor-wide cameras and all that sort of stuff. And I went there one night, and I was probably 30 years old. No, I was 28, 29 years old. This bloke had flogged the hell out of her. And the person opening up the thing, who was one of the ladies there that was one of the elders, she just, instead of identifying that this is a problem and all that, she goes, "Oh, don't worry, he's just loving you." And I'm like, that is the worst thing to say to someone like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like when someone's upset and you anchor them into a hug. You anchor her into that situation and show acceptance, and that just shouldn't happen. And we just don't have anything that does that. We've got some media stuff out there, but there's nothing to back it up. Like, you can't go and cuddle an ad or take comfort in an ad because you go back to who's around you. So, and like you said, it takes strength. It takes someone like what you did, Scott, to get them there. You know, I used to do that in my job as personally, but I can't say that everyone I work with did that, because I really have a disdain for it. But a lot of the people that you find that are involved in that and keep staying involved in that usually grew up with it. You know, it's there, it's normal. So once they can identify it's normal and get the courage to take action of it, that's the only time they're going to get a different result.
You find often that a lot of the men that I've interviewed and we've chatted by the campfire, it's been a case of those that were, say, bullies, had been bullied, those that were involved in working now in areas of domestic violence. You know, they went through it either as having received it or being a child in that family where their mother was copying it. So we always get drawn to where we and the things that affected us. So that person then is probably the best person to help others through that as well. If somebody hasn't just been academically taught, but have actually been through these things, have seen it, they come from a place of experience, so they have an empathy that somebody who's just been trained, like a medical practitioner, hasn't got the ability to do. So this person can do that. But it's really a case, I think we've got to create an environment where, yes, you may not have to go and talk to the person who's done the wrong thing by you, but to be able to talk to somebody else. And so be able to, as you said, John, be able to release it. You don't have to confront the other person with it.
You've got to have that person you're talking to about speaking to, though. You've got to have someone who got out of it, not someone who endured it.
Yes, that's it. You know, because you find a lot of counsellors, and I knew that when I did lifeline counselling, and yes, I needed counselling at the time when I did my training. That's why I did the training. But then I realised that once I'd learnt from that, then I could help other people. But it's like a lot of life coaches out there, you know that they haven't even sorted their own life out, and they're telling everybody else how to fix their life. That's why whenever I get requests from people to like their coaching business, I want to talk to them first before I'll put a like on that. I'll like your other, your shops and things like that, but I won't like coaches for the sake of just liking them, because there's so many of them that still haven't dealt with their own stuff, and they're putting that onto other people and expecting to fix their stuff while they're trying to help the other person. It doesn't work.
Or avoid their stuff because the other person can play things out for them, or they get to be distracted by other people rather than dealing with their own. Where I feel very clear that whatever it is that comes up in the lives around me, whether it's clients or friends or family or whatever, it's come up in my life because there's something for me to look at, as well as something for the other person. I need to deal with mine separately and then be able to be there for the other person. And earlier on, we were talking about telling the truth. And I wonder with every situation, whether there is a truth or whether there's everyone's relationship to what went on, which is their truth. And surely from everyone's perspective, their truth is right. But once people can really hear or come from the perspective of other people, then that truth can shift. or their perspective or their awareness of this thing can totally shift. And I totally agree with John. It's not about who's going to be accountable and we need to have it out. It's the only way that I'm going to let this go is change my relationship to it, to the situation, whether it's with them, on my own, in a group, with a therapist, with a friend, in the gym, wherever it is, as long as it's out, as long as it's not
As long
even
as you process it. Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes I know that I got addicted to adrenaline and guilt, maybe even shame, because of the post-traumatic stress disorder I had in my family, or the complications of the secrets and lies and the fear of what other people might think. And then I replaced that getting into the music business or into public relations or into design and any industry that had a tight deadline, so my body could really keep getting hits of, oh my God, something's going to happen. I need to be stressed. I need to be on the edge. This part of me of fear and of a kind of like very high frequency, a very toxic part needed to be fed. And I needed to learn to get off the addiction of adrenaline and allow space for endorphins to come in, which is a lot more creative, a lot calmer, and it doesn't cost my energy. And earlier on we were saying about abusers abuse. Well, I wonder whether at some level beyond abuse that this is how I have gained attention, or this is how people have related to me. So rather than it being abuse, it's, well, this is how I give attention, or this is how I express relationship. And it's just the information of what's going on allows that person to have choice. I guess I flinched earlier on when you said anyone that's abused needs to be killed. Well, that's one perspective. My fear is that unless this is understood, it's not going to be people aren't going to have choice with it. I've had a lot of more perspective abusers than abusers come to work with me. And I find them courageous in that they will talk about the very strange and sordid things that they want, that a part of them compels them to do, that they're planning on doing. Where actually talking about it rather than doing it is a bloke saying, look, this is what's going on. I don't like it. I'm not even sure why it's going on. I don't want to do it, but something needs to be sorted out so I don't act out. So this part of me that might take over and really cause harm is put in its place. So it's easy to say these people are bad, but I wonder behind all of that, what's going on and how do we nip it in the bud so it's not perpetuated, so it's not passed on. And it's very intimate, delicate, strong work to do, because it's meeting people in that place where they are about to play out, or in that place of them that needs feeding. And in order to meet someone in their rage or their pain or their bliss, I need to have access to that part of me in order to meet them. It's not intellectual. It's like, if this is going on, good, bad, or ugly, and it needs to pass, you need to tell your secret, you need to be met in that place, and then this needs to pass. Then it takes someone able to meet another person in that place for it to pass. It's not intellectual. It's not saving. It's not hierarchical. It's a very sacred place of vulnerability, of fear. Sometimes, I guess, of disgust. But the disgust can come later. First, this person needs to be met. First, I need to know myself here. It's very easy for societies to say men don't speak. Well, a man will speak if there is someone who knows how to listen and can meet him in that place, rather than pointing the finger, intellectualizing, laughing, fixing, etc., etc. So I think, especially with the work that I do, and I'm sure the work that some of us do, I need to know these places inside of me and make peace with them so I can meet other people there. And the secrets and lies and pain and trauma and the scripts that are making us sick can pass.
You see, on the case of somebody who has been an abuser, or been talking about, as you mentioned, those men, being able to use that, find out more about that, gives us more knowledge of the ones that are keeping everything secret, because we don't fix a problem by just cutting it off at that. So we've got to stand back. We've got to be able to look at the bigger picture and go, what is the cause behind this? Where is this coming from? That's what we have to snap in the bud, not just the one person. Yes, we have to make it safe for the person who's being mistreated and all the rest of it. We have to stop that perpetrator from doing any more. But we need to find and break the cycle. We have to know where they're coming from.
Who's got the bigger fear? Who's got the bigger fear, the victim or the offender?
Who's got the biggest
fear?
Probably
fear?
Both.
It's not
Fear of being caught out, or the fear of telling the big.
No, the fear of of the actual event happening. Who's scared the most, the victim or the person who's done it? Because the person who done it in Australia, like I've had, I've physically dealt with people who've done this. I had one bloke when I was 19 years old who'd physically raped his grandson for the second time. He'd actually got charged, put in jail, came back on. This kid's still 10, so it tells you he wasn't in jail for long. He's done it again. Guess what his sentence was? 2 years weekend detention. Now, where's the fear? Where's his fear for doing that? Now, for me, as a society, and I've got a bit of an insight working in the police and dealing with those sort of people for 20 years, and actually having to speak to those people, there is no fear. They're like, oh yeah, well I got away with the fear. You got me for that. I'll go away for 2 years, and they'll come out and they'll repeat it.
But doesn't that come back to our values and
well,
where we stand as a community and as a society, that our values aren't being upheld in dealing with these. Our values,
100%.
Perpetrators dealing with and not getting. There's no ample punishment for what happens in that, because it creates another cycle.
It does. So that's right. Yes.
Again, and the victim is a high chance of becoming a perpetrator because they don't understand what happens, so they want to know what happens. They want to understand what happened to them. So inside their head, it's going 100 miles an hour. Why? The only way I'm going to find out is by doing it.
Yeah.
And that's so how do we, because I've got on my wall here and I have it in front of me at all times, and I act on it. My values are trust, respect, and love equal action. And as a community, I do what I do for community. I want to bring my community back because I don't think our values are being met like that. When we have those values set and we've got them there, secrets don't become secrets. What is of Christmas, and we're celebrating and we're telling them with a smile to protect innocence and enjoy innocence. They're the secrets we keep.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
The only way I can see us actually doing something about us, and to be perfectly honest, this is going to suck hearing this, we're all to blame.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Because we're not standing up for our values. That's changing. That is changing in a big way. By Campfire, by Sunday session, by Kenny, by John fighting PTSD. We've had enough. And
when you hold yourself to a higher level, then you can hold other people to that level as well. So it's got to start with us getting up to that level first.
Well, you've got to draw the lines in the sand. Lines in the sand aren't drawn. You've got to learn how to operate between, what's in and what's out. There's no line in the sand. And if there's no, consequence, even in sport, you play football. If you step outside the line, the other team gets the ball. There's a consequence, but there's a clear line drawn. And we don't have any clear lines drawn, and there are no consequences. I know that firsthand. It's just like, for me, the consequences of that are crap. I'm quite happy to get on here and say, which I've always said when I was younger, once I learnt all this, whilst I was a policeman, if anyone did that to my kids, I'd kill them. I'd go Old Testament on their ass, and I would sleep at night, because I would not put my son, like once they go through something like that, then they've got to go and be interviewed and be spoken to and relive it, and that goes on for years. Like, there's no mending for the person that's had it done if they go into the legal system. Like Scott said, that we need to have those boundaries, and we need to have, we need to stand up.
So how do we do that? Because the only way I can foresee that happening is actually coming up with values that we all stand by, and having that. Because at the moment, our values are the values of the media, of what sells.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's values that don't apply to us. So how do we do that? Like my mission, and you might have seen it when I had an interview or when I first popped up. Do good men exist? We do. I'm sitting here with 3. Right? Our values are the ones that count. When are we going to stand up and say enough? And the only way to do that is to live our values and to come together. Keep coming together. Right. Keep coming together. Because the power of the few becomes the power of the many when we stand together.
Yeah, so if you raise your standard up and the people around you will respond to that, and they come up to that level as well. And once they're operating at that level, the people around them start to come up to that level. So it's a groundswell. You get to more people faster when you start with yourself first of all. And so we've got to have that higher level for ourselves. And therefore, as talk that we had down in Sydney, Scott, when we got together the first time, as you said, you brought up the comment that we are the sum of the 5 closest friends that we have around us. And that's why you got rid of the 5 you had and you found another new 5. And so that's the sort of thing we need to look at is who are we hanging around with? That's a reflection of who we are. Look at that and go, hey, do we need to move that to a higher level? Well, whatever level you're at, you can always take it higher. And therefore, the people that we have around us will be attracted to that level as well. And that's how we make the change. It's not made overnight, but it's made faster than getting out and telling everybody what everybody else should do. I understand where Kenny's feelings about, you said you flinched when John said about killing somebody, but I also understand where John's coming from when our legal system makes it so easy for the perpetrator. If a woman gets raped, she goes to court. The guy raped her possibly once only, and then she goes through that rape so many more times with the police in the court. And so she's been victimised by the legal system that's supposed to protect her.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see where the frustration is there. Yes, if somebody attacked my grandchildren or my family when they, boys when they were younger, they can look after themselves now. They're all grown men. But I would have had that same sort of response. You attack my family, I'm going to defend and attack back. But then I look at it at the same time and I go, okay, that's a cycle that's continually repeating. What do I do next to find out where this is all coming from and go and attack that? Stop that from happening again. And I think that's, as you said, Scott, raise our level up to become better ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can only support a victim if they are in a safe and supported environment. If they feel a perpetrator is still in their environment, they cannot feel safe. So how do we, as a community, we need to strengthen our bonds so that we can stand together and actually put an end to things. Because at the moment, that's not happening. Because i.e. in Lost Connections, it's no different. With all the prisons being publicly owned now, there's no reason. They want in and out, go out, come back, go out, come back. It's a money thing.
The business.
They're all privately owned now, so it is a money business.
Yeah, absolutely. You take away. It's funny, like I learned a lot in business, and I've failed, and and have I failed though? I learned a lot, and I keep getting lessons after lessons after lessons. We're talking before about how do you find somebody who is a good coach, because like you look at a 26-year-old coach, no life experience. You look at someone,
Are they cute?
but you look at someone who's, for me to find someone who's a coach, I want someone who's failed. I want someone who's failed hard
and then moves above it.
Rose again, because every time you fail, you get stronger. So as a community, we've failed enough. Time to get stronger.
Yeah. Well, would you go to somebody who's you want financial advice? Would you go to somebody who is the son of some rich person, or would you go to somebody who's failed repeatedly, attacked and become bankrupt, and kept coming back again? I know which one I'd go to, and it's the latter because I have the experience of it all. So it's
we go to the bank for advice on money.
Yeah.
I've fallen into that trap. So anyway. Sorry, I'll
Johan,
calm down now and I'll just chill out for a second.
No, that was good stuff. I love it. No, keep going, Scott. Good.
I met Johan Harry a couple of times. I did a show with him, and he said the thing that he loves about the men's groups is that he called it social medicine. And I think this goes forward with what Scott was saying, in that it's not so much that I need to... when I was a child, when I was a kid, I thought I can't move on with my life unless the people in my life move on with me. I can't abandon them. It was like kind of being part of the victim club. It's fine for me to know, but what about everyone else? And it's like, I'm not going to abandon them. I'm better than that. And then I realized that actually it is the victim club. It's not that they necessarily wish to change. Maybe this is where they're comfortable. This is what they believe. This is how they express relationship, etc., etc. And I thought, well, rather than giving all the attention out, and I was used to being emotionally responsible for people, I need to take full responsibility and be true to myself, my values, and the way that I wish to live my life, whether it means people stay or go. It's not about that. I need to check in and live what's true for me. And yeah, people fell by the wayside, and sometimes it was painful, sometimes it was actually a relief, often it was guilt-ridden. But what I realized is if I'm going to be a product of my environment, then it's my responsibility to attract a decent environment. And if I'm surrounded by people that have a neurosis that may be familiar because it's from my childhood somehow, then is this true right now? Is this what I believe is good for me or for people? And if it's not, then I need to let it go. I need to no longer be who I used to be to survive. And then I need to really check in and live who I am or who I'm growing into in order to passionately live. Now that's dangerous because I could be humiliated, abandoned, abused, make an absolute ass of myself, etc., etc. But at least I'm living and taking part. And at least as I make mistakes, I can share the mistakes, and other blokes don't need to fall down the same hole. So for me, I really learned that I need to move on and be true to myself irrespective. And it's my responsibility to create that community or attract that community of people that I actually want to be like, rather than people who I'm used to or tell me I'm cool or are just like familiar. And it was a big shift. It was a big shift to change that. And with the social medicine, I'm going to show you and tell you and share with you who I really am. And this takes the risk of you not meeting me there in that depth, in that vulnerability, in that truth. In fact, it's quite likely that you might just take the piss and I'll feel like a silly ass. Am I willing to take that risk? Am I willing for me and who I really am to be the dirty little secret? And am I going to second guess who you are and how to be popular and meet in a very light and simplistic place? And that was my big risk. And thank God I have, I feel like I live in a privileged little bubble. And as far as I'm concerned, if I can be true to myself in this bubble, and if it attracts other people who are being true to themselves, and they may not be exactly the same, then hopefully the bubble grows and the world becomes less fearful, less addicted, less paranoid, and less into what will people think and what does the media say, and more full of individuals being true to themselves, finding our way and getting it wrong as well as getting it right, and making an ass of myself publicly so other people don't need to do that. So people can think, me too. I've done that. I've had that success and I'm going to build on that. I've had that failure. Now I know not to go there. And I'll tell other people what I've succeeded from and learned from so they can navigate for themselves and they don't have to get into the same pickle.
Which you're doing what Scott was saying with the increase your integrity and your moral values and staying true to them and taking action on your association, which is so true. Yeah. Exactly. What's his name? John Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. That's one of his main things is the law of association. The mean average of your 5 closest friends. It's so true. It's something I tell my boys all the time. And as a result, they do guard that. You got to guard your association.
That's it.
It's okay to be amongst 5 people and look at them and learn from them, because every time you're around a new circle, doesn't matter who it is, you're going to learn more. We're all a product of our experiences. So the more experiences we have, the more people we meet, the more social connection we have, the more opportunity we all have to grow.
Exactly.
So it's about getting together, trying new things, pushing things. And as men, our words have power. But when we lead with action, it's a whole nother level. So
Action cures fear.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Always comes down to that. The thing I love about this is that whenever I never want to be the smartest person in the room, especially when it comes to business and everything else. I want to learn from people who know more than me, because I can't learn from people who know less if I'm trying to expand on what I already know. That's one of the reasons why I have all you guys come onto these panels. So I'm definitely not going to be the smartest person in the room, which is brilliant. So,
well, I reckon I'm the one with the least potential there, because I sat in front of you and said, what have I got to say to you? He doesn't want to listen. And geez, I was wrong. But thank you. I sat in front of Alan and I had to present in front of him, and I couldn't talk because I didn't think he wanted to hear what I had to say.
Was he trying to intimidate you by sitting on a pillow? He tried to do that with me.
I'm dead set, John. I'm testified.
Yeah, that's why I've got a rock here that I can jack up so I can sit a bit higher all the time. See, that's why I love the camera, because if I'm around everybody else, they're all taller than me and I'm looking like this, it's not good for my neck. So that's another reason for doing it this way. But again, I reckon we could talk all evening on this one. And the great thing is that with the panels that we've had, it's bringing you back again, but also mixing it up with the other guys as well and getting more discussion on this, because instead of trying to get everybody on at once, which we can't really do, it'd be a very long talk, we're getting those chats and we're getting more information. I'd love to hear from the people that are viewing these videos as well, these discussions, and hear your comments on each of the videos so that we know that we're not just talking for our own purpose, but if we're coming out with some wisdom, that other people are able to pick that up. So for all the people who are listening to this, please respond to what you're hearing in the panel discussions. There's some new men coming on that I'm interviewing as well. So that, and by the way, as I've said before, if you have projects you're running to help men, which therefore helps their partners, their children, it virtually becomes, as far as I'm concerned, that's a community event, because it impacts on everyone that they come in contact with.
If you social medicine. I love that term.
I love it.
I'm going to use that term. Yeah. That's a great term.
Kenny, you've been on here a few times, and I think I've stolen quite a bit from you, so I'm really chuffed about the whole thing. But
it's all yours.
But the people, if you do want to promote the things that you're doing out there, everybody else, get in and have a chat with me by the campfire so that you can get some credibility by letting people see who you are. They can see what you've been through, they've seen who you've become, and they can then go, this is somebody I want to talk to. I've been knocking back a lot of posts that have been going up on the campfire recently, mainly because it's either self-promoting or promoting somebody else outside that I don't even know who they are. And as I said, I am very critical on the quality of coaches out there. We've got these young fellas, as you mentioned, that are, all rah-rah. We've got people who do nothing but swear, because that seems to be the key phrase in their career approach. I'm looking for genuine, high-quality people who have walked their talk and are showing that and can share it with others. So anyway, get off your high horse, Alan, on that one. But that's where we're having, when we look at the quality of the people I've had in the panel, like you guys and the others and the ladies, we've got some magnificent people. But every last one of you have stepped up and shown who you are to everybody else so they can see who you are and then they can connect with you. And I know a few of you are already doing business with each other around the world. And that's what I love about this. It's a safe place where you can all give yourself... Sorry?
I want you to stay on your high horse, because that's where you're setting the bar. That's the values of the campfire. Stay on that high horse. Don't get off it.
Is that what you call the pillow?
That's a pillow, yes. I've got to get up there and get down quick, so it's that height. So that's why I want to get some people to come up as well. So I'll be also looking forward to some of you guys running the panels yourself and having where I can sit back and just watch and have 4 other men on the screen, chatting away as well. This is a community place for a safe place for men to be able to come and tell their story, give themselves permission. It's not up to the community to give them permission. It's a responsibility of the community to make a safe place, as we've been talking about, for those men then to be able to give themselves permission to tell their stories. And from that, the greatest recipients of this process is going to be all the men, and that flows down to their partners and their children. So this is a we together approach, bringing everyone together, not little fractionalised groups. So the women are welcome. Anybody who's respectful is welcome in the group. So if you're listening today, keep passing the word around and get more people in here. Anyway, thanks guys for being here today. I really appreciate it. And I always, as I said, always love the conversations. And I like the stirring from you, John, as well. That's why we're
Yeah, I can't help it. It's sort of one of those things that just comes with me.
Excellent. And to everybody else who's listening in, thanks for being here again, and we'll see you on the next Campfire discussion. Bye for now.
Cool.
Thanks.
Bye.